story time. I'm about to tell you about my 5 years in therapy. Join me. Welcome to Protea TV, presented by Protea Psychotherapy Practice, which is an organization that specializes in the psychological intervention for personal change. Hi, I'm Lordia, your host, and I'm here weekly with new, interesting and relevant topics in modern psychotherapy. In this week's episode, it was suggested that I do a story time. Yeah, story time! And I decided that I'd share about my time in therapy, or some of it. And my reason for this is because it's the most relevant to the content of the channel. And secondly, as well, because we, the therapists, expect you, client, patient, to attend our sessions. And it would be nice for you to know that we also have been on the other side, and we totally more or less understand how scary of a process it can be and how nerve-wracking the first session is. So how I got into therapy was because I started my Bachelor of Science, and it was a requirement, it was a prerequisite in order to obtain the degree, that I've had a certain amount of session completed by the end of the 3 years, basically. So part of the criteria was that I had to find a therapist that had a certain amount of credentials. And I thought, okay, I went through tons of therapies online, look at them, thought I didn't like the look of that one, or spoke to one or two on the phone and I thought didn't like the sound of that one, until I found about 2, to which I narrowed it down to, and I thought I will attend this one, and if this one is no good, then I've got that one, I can go. But I attended the first one. She was a lady and she was lovely, and I decided to stay. And I thought to myself, you know what, I don't need therapy. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm telling you, nothing wrong with me. But I need the hours. I need to be in therapy, and I need my degree, right? So I thought, I'm going to see her. It's going to be easy peasy lemon squeezy, you know. I'm going to get through this. It's going to be a breeze. I'm just going to go and tell her lots of stuff that she might be interested in or may not be interested in, but I will fill the time. So got to the first session. She went through the formalities, you know, my doctor's details, my any anxieties, and she just went through the protocols, the administrative stuff, introduced herself, and most of that I knew anyway because I went through her online profile thoroughly. I checked up with her credential with the National Psychotherapy, you know, British Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy, and she was there. She was legit. She was the real deal. Yeah, she was there. And so I thought, okay, I can get through this. This is easy. So the first session I struggled because I didn't have much to say. I didn't know what to say. But I filled the time talking about the weather, about how difficult it is to be at uni, and how rubbish the lecturers are, and how the cafeteria lunch is rubbish and expensive. And I just filled the time with that session. The second and third session, I did more or less the same thing, talking about friends and going out and what it was like, and, you know, stuff. Just stuff. And by this time, I think she had caught on to me, because she turned to me and said, okay, it seems like you're saying a lot. It seems like you've got a lot to say. And then she said something along the lines of, you're talking rather a lot, but you're not telling me anything. And I thought, oh, sugar, she's on to me. And I sat back in the couch and I thought, what does that mean? And I started getting defensive, you know. I'm talking a lot. Who are you to tell me I'm talking a lot? I don't talk a lot. Me don't talk a lot, right?
So, yeah, I don't talk a lot. And anybody who knows me know I don't talk a lot.
But anyway, I thought I'd get into the role of being defensive because at least that's one way of keeping her at bay. And I started saying, you know, I'm telling you stuff. This is what's happening in my life, and you know, this. What else do you want me to say? I can't make stuff up. And I started giving her that sort of attitude, and she said something like, "Okay, I hear that, and but I was wondering what's behind the stories you're telling me when you're talking about the lecturers and the cafeteria being expensive. What are the stories behind that?" And I sat there in silence for a moment, and I was thinking, why am I in silence anyway? I'm paying you. I'm not paying to be in silence. Because guess what? I struggled with silence even in my early days of being a therapist. And my reason for that was because growing up as a child, a part of my punishment would be the silent treatment. So I struggled with silence, to sit in silence, because that was like punishment. It felt like I was being told off. So sitting there with her in the silence as I'm trying to compose my thoughts of coming up with the next story to tell her, it somewhat felt a bit uncomfortable. So I then said to her, well, the reason why the lecturers or annoy me is because of all this extensive book list, and I struggled to read all of that. So she said, what about it? What's the struggle? And then she started getting into it. And anyway, it transpired that because growing up, I was given lots of books to read rather than to play. And as a result, I think I have some resentment towards books and big books. Because for me, that's like another punishment. Because rather than playing with my friends, growing up, I lived near where I could see all my friends playing track in the field and stuff like that. And I sat and read. So for me to then be given books to read, especially big books with no pictures, it just felt so tedious. And then we explored that a bit and about how that felt and, you know, how I could work through that process. And I thought, that's not too bad actually. That was helpful. I can take some of what she said. And then we left from that conversation to move on to the fact that I'm late sometimes. I was late sometimes. I had issues with being late. Yes, I did. And she brought it up that, you know, the last 2 sessions or 3 sessions, I was a bit pushing the boundary there with being late. What was that about? And it was uncomfortable for me because she was challenging me. I'm paying you. You don't ask me and tell me I'm late. I'm paying you, you know. That was my attitude, yes. That was my thought process. I dare not say to her, but I'm sure she picked it up. She picked up the vibe, you know? The vibe, you know? Who dare you? I'm paying you. So anyway, we explored that and we realized that I was spending a lot of time in my house getting things just right, getting my cushions in place before I leave the house. My bed has to be immaculate. All the cushions, everything, plates and everything had to be washed. Everything had to be spick and span. And then she tapped into, oh, that's about control. And, you know, she got me going. And anyway, long and short of that story is that I was trying to control my house and the environment because it was difficult for me to accept the fact that there are things in my life that I just could not control at the time, and I just cannot control even now. So the more I got to accept that is the less obsessed I was with having my house just as it should be. I guess some of my friends now will still differ to that, but it's not as bad as it was. So long and short of the story, because I'm limited for time, but starting off with the therapy session saying that I don't have any problems, I don't have any issues, and I'm only ticking the box to complete my degree, it's led to the fact that I spent 5 full years in therapy. 5 full years. I did the 3 full years of therapy for the degree, and then I continued for another 2 years willingly. But I got so much for it. I started looking at my self-actualization, my self-development. I started changing and becoming the person I always dreamt of being, because, you know, these conditions of growth was just covered, and, you know, all of that. It was just, I just needed to start again. I just needed to get rid of the bits and the decluttering and just start all over again. And it felt like a brand new me, a brand new creation. And after the years, I just started evolving into the person I am now. And needless to say, I did do my hours and I was successful on the course. I did obtain Bachelor of Science in Counseling and Psychotherapy, and I did achieve a lot. More so than the degree, my personal development was worth every bit of it. It was worth every bit of it, considering I started off with not wanting therapy, not thinking I needed therapy or there was anything wrong with me. And you know what? There was nothing wrong with me, but there was a lot of improvements that needs to be had within me. So I guess that's the end of story time for this episode. If you can relate to any of what I was saying, then go ahead and comment below. Or if it's personal, send me a message or check us out to our website, which is www.protheapsychotherapy.com, or an email at info@protheapsychotherapy.com. Like and share our videos, and remember to subscribe to our channel for weekly updated content. Until next episode, be your authentic self.